Hello everyone, I'm going to talk now about art materials and tools that you might come across and use in a creative process. I'm going to cover some tools and some dry and wet media. And first thing I'm going to show you here is pencils. You will find a lot of different brands and different types of pencils. I will cover that in a later session, what all this here means. You'll find that very helpful to understand what an H means, or a B, or a high B, or something. So there's lots of different of these. You can of course also get color pencils. You can even get water-soluble color pencils, which you can use with water and they turn into watercolors. So that's a whole area here in itself. Then I have fine liners and a Sharpie here. And I'm going to cover these later as well. And I demonstrate them. There's some watercolors. You will naturally find them in a little set, almost like this, in a metal box or so, with little colors. Because I use them in huge quantities, I basically buy the colors I like, and they have a little pipette, and you can soak it up and then make a real mess with this. There's some fabric paints, not to be mistaken with other paints. So if you want to work on fabric, this is a great one, Pebeo. There's some inks here. They come in all different colors. They're great for calligraphy. You can even get them, well, obviously in black, but even get it in white, which looks amazing if you do calligraphy on dark paper. Calligraphy is writing with a nice nib. Yeah. Then we've got something like a mega thick pencil. Basically just what you would find inside the pencil, but the whole thing is this. And these are graphite sticks, and they're amazing. If you want to do some really large scale drawings, I'm going to demonstrate that as well. Then we've got, of course, wax crayons and different types of pastels. Pastels come as two different types, as basically as a dry pastel or an oil pastel. The dry pastel is as it implies, less smudgy, less oily. The oil pastel takes long to dry, and it has actual oil in it, so it's really smudgy. You can also get them as metallic shades. So for example, if you want a golden pastel and you want a bright golden reflex sitting on something, I will demonstrate this. Then there are acrylic paints. I've got shelves full of these. This is just a little example. There's an entire shelf, nothing but acrylics. All of these here in use, and above you find pigment. And pigment is the base of mixing any of this. Even color pencil would have that as a base in it. We're going to talk about the use of colors and acrylics in a different session, when I'm going to show you how to mix them and the use of brushes and spatulas and all this. As for paints, I think that's it for the moment. Then we've got tools, of course. We need some brushes. This is just a little selection of different brushes. I personally use pointed little brushes for little marks, then brushes that you can almost use to do calligraphy, a fan brush, you know. And then we've got, of course, scissors, very important. And we've got glue and tape. I personally like using masking tape most. There's loads of different tapes, packing tape, invisible tape, whatever. Masking tape has incredible qualities, really. It's very strong. You can paint over it. It's really good to also, as it says, mask areas when you do a watercolor, for example. It's used in fashion design when you draft patterns and all this. Great stuff. It's got a papery texture here, yeah, and you won't harm yourself when you put it on your body or your clothes, so it's great to work with. Then we've got glues. There is a glue gun, and a glue gun, the way it works, you have to plug into the wall to a socket. It heats up, and then you must, under no condition, touch this because it will be very hot. That's why it's called hot glue gun. With that come hot glue sticks that you push into the back of this. And you won't find anything comparable on the market if you want to glue some things together. Even if you want to glue a stone to glass or something, that will do it. Right, there's some lighter duty glues that you can use. There's these, for example. This is a adhesive based glue. Yoo-hoo. is kind of dried in. So see, it's a bit sticky. This is great for paper, for example, because there's no water in it. The same with this one. This is even stronger. It would say naturally what glues are for on there. This is super glue. Don't stick it between your fingers. These are glue sticks. Yeah, glue sticks are very commonly used. This is great if you do a sketchbook. You want to stick in some photographs on the page as such. You know, they come out like that. You know, cover the back, smudge it in, done. Only trouble is this dries out, and after half a year or something, things start to fall off. Yeah, so to be taken with care. There's also PVA glue, very commonly used in artist studios. This is great stuff if you want to glue things together and you have a lot of time, because this takes time, and PVA glue is water-based. So I do not recommend using it for papers, because that means what happens if you put a paper into water? It gets really wobbly. And it means whatever you glue together will dry, and will dry kind of wobbly. So avoid this one for paper, okay? Then, once we've created an artwork, we want to make sure that it doesn't smudge. So say you have in your sketchbook a beautiful drawing with pencils or with graphite, you know, or maybe with the oil pastels, and you want to make sure it stays nice. The moment you close the book, you'll find that the pages rub against each other when you transport in your bag or something, and it kind of starts to smudge, at least against the opposite side. And if it's a loose page, you'll just ruin the artwork over time. So this is called fixative. Again, loads of different brands, you know, you just spray it like that, and it fixes, almost like a glue, the whatever the material you use, the graphite or the oil pastel or whatever, to the paper. And the good thing about these artist fixatives is that they are light proof. They don't turn yellow. You could achieve the same thing by simply using hairspray. Say your artwork is not that important to you and you don't want to splash out on this, use hairspray. It does the same thing, but after 10 years or so it goes yellow. Then we've got different types of erasers. Yeah, and they come in all different consistencies. There's some hard ones like this one. This is nice when you want to do a precise line work. Let's say you've done a grayscale and you want to do almost a white drawing with an eraser in there, then you use a hard one. Or there's some putty rubbers like this, and see this? It turns into like almost like chewing gum. Don't chew it though. And the good thing is this absorbs everything. So if you work, for example, with charcoal, which I'm going to come to in a second, it takes off a lot and kind of knits it in. So this is a great stuff. Lots of different ones. Again, you need to try what's best. Then we've got obviously sharpeners. And next we have the knife. This is a cutting knife here. They come in all different sizes and widths and brands, and it works very easily. You just push this out, yeah, and see it's kind of intersected, so when it goes blunt at the tip, you shouldn't really touch it. I'm only touching it because it's sharp. It's not sharp anymore because I've used it a lot, but it has these intersections, and you can take then pliers and snap off a piece if it doesn't cut very, very well anymore, because it's most likely blunt at the top. Whilst you're cutting, you can lock this by bringing this little knob here up. There we go. And now, no matter what you do, you can't move it. So when you're using it, it will not slide back in. If I lose this, if I don't put this brake on, and I'm going over something, it might be that I'm cutting and kind of goes back in, yeah? Next thing, we have sketchbooks, of course. They come in all different sizes. The US has very different formats than the European norms. This, for example, is an A3, and it's a portrait direction sketchbook. You know, it's bound. Some come spiral bound. This one is properly bound. You know, this is a hardcover book. Some are soft cover. you know. But make sure when you get your sketchbook that you ask that it has drawing paper in it, you know. Drawing paper usually has a particular weight to it, so it, when you work with watercolor, for example, it doesn't start to warp a lot and stuff like this, yeah. So this is just standard sketchbook, and as said, you can get them in this direction, opening sideways, that will be landscape, or in this direction. And there's lots of different brands. This is Daler Rowney, but there are endless other ones. Now, of course, these are only a few materials that you could use, and on your journey you will most certainly come across millions of other things, because when you work as an artist, you find all the time new materials. You get interested in one particular thing, let's say watercolors, and you start to try out, and then you want to mix it with something else, or you want to have a paint that stands particularly well on a dark background or so. So all I can suggest is you get your basics, refer to the list that you've been given as a material list that you should get for this term, and then build on this, see what works for you, and if there's something in particular, best you Google it either and try to find out what there is as a similar material, or you go to an art store and you just ask.